This video brought to you by GigaBooksPress.com, your source for small guides in all formats. GigaBooksPress.com. First of all, before we get into it, I just want to say thank you for viewing. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for your subscriptions. It feels like sometimes that a lot of people are going, watching TikTok and shorts and things like that. Maybe you do too, but it just kind of seems like that's all anybody watches, and my content really doesn't fit into a short form video. So once again, thank you very much. What we have here is a thing that I've been trying to get in for a very long time. In fact, if this didn't exist back in 2018, I may not have done a retro style keyboard case. Now mine was kind of paled in comparison to something like this, which is almost a thing of beauty, but we're going to kind of compare and contrast. We'll get into that later, but for now, let's just look at the box. Okay, see what we've got here. I backed this Kickstarter about 18 months ago, and this is I believe the second iteration of this. It's done by My Retro Computer. I'm not going to do a full build today because tutorials are available on their YouTube channel, and they're pretty good. But we're gonna put some things together and get a feel for how it goes together, maybe point some things out, compare it to my retro keyboard case, and see where we're at. So for people watching this on a small screen, this box is designed really like the American Commodore 64 case. It very much looks and feels like the Commodore 64 box that the Americans got. Now the Europeans got a different style of box, and that's more like the retro games Commodore 64, the C64, and that styling is more a little more in line with the European, but this is very much feels like an American box from Commodore 64. So it's styled after the famous bread bin. Mechanical keyboard with cherry blue key switches, designed to accommodate modern components and built around the mini-ITX motherboard. So build your own modern C64x. The world's biggest selling computer is back as a modern PC or mini-ITX case. And as you can see, the keyboard layout is kind of the dead giveaway here. That and the CD-ROM slot there, kind of a dead giveaway. Got some technical specifications here on the side. Let's try and keep that in shot here while I read it. Now, what I've got here is that you could have gotten this in a number of different colors, in a number of different configurations, including a full computer, which I'm not sure if there's. I think there are people still waiting on that, but what I've got is just the bare bones case. I'm a PC builder. I've got plenty of parts, as you can see, and so I don't need the parts. I don't need anything. So with these are pertaining to the PC side of things. So I've just got the bare bones. Commodore 64 is back, the 64-bit machine. Build your very own retro-themed PC in our all-in-one retro PC case. Whether it's one-of-a-kind mechanical keyboard, retro is the new modern. Not sure if I completely agree with that, but that's another video. Designed around the mini-ITX form factor, this fantastic all-in-one Commodore 64 is an exciting addition to the retro computer do-it-yourself scene. Includes the world famous bread bin case, cherry switch full mechanical keyboard, retro themed keycaps, 2x USB 3.0 side ports, authentic momentary LED and power switch, storage cradle, and 40mm chassis fan. So this is the back of it here, and just gives you some overview of exploded diagram here and different keycaps and whatnot. This Kickstarter came in pretty quick. It did not, because they've done this before. They did a Kickstarter before, and it was very successful. And they've actually done this before, so this is their second Kickstarter with this very same product. And so everything came very quickly, and I was kind of surprised because most of the Kickstarters that I've been waiting for, I'm still waiting for. So I was very pleasantly surprised that they're on the ball on this one. But I'm not going to go over all of this. There's the top with the handle. Nice touch. And the bottom. And this is very, very much a nice little Photoshop job here. They've actually Photoshopped in the keyboard case in with the this older picture here. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. It opens a little counterintuitively. I would have thought the handle would have been on this other side where you're flipping open the case, but nope, it's over here. So there we go. It's a model C64x. Not that that makes any difference. But it's got a user's guide. Tells you how to build everything in the system. Very nice. Paper user's guides don't even come with new cases anymore half the time. It's just a little sheet of paper going, yeah, here's the pinout for your front panel connections. Okay. So what's in here? Not a lot in here, just some zip ties, some screws. We'll set those aside. We'll probably need those later. Anything else in there? No, just that's all there is. Very, very similar to the Commodore computer case of yore. Pull this out. Pull the end pieces off here. And already the heft is kind of, I mean, it just by itself, there's nothing in here. There's no components in it. But it feels as heavy as a regular Commodore computer with all its guts in it. Which I think that's fascinating. Nice bubble label here. I'll let you hear the keys here a little better. With cherry blue switches, I feel that they are very close to the original Commodore sounding, and it depends on your keycaps, obviously, but they've really done a good job getting the feel and the sound just right. And of course, with a cherry blue switch, they're going to be able to, this keyboard will be able to be repaired. Maybe not so much the keycaps, but now I see that there's no Petski characters on the front of the keys, unfortunately, but that's okay too. You buy a regular PC keyboard and you're not going to have those anyway. Get a look at the slot for the CD-ROM, USB ports, a little bit of ventilation. Let's take a look at the back side here. Let's take a look at the silver label. C64x. So the manufacturer, Zhuhai Heng Yu, New Technology Company Limited. Designed by Commodore USA LLC and My Retro Computer Limited, myretrocomputer.com. Let's get into this. Now, it's interesting. There are 6 screws around the outside. None of them are in. So there are no screws. So we should just be able to pull this right apart. Should be easy to do. Oh, let's get that tape out of the way. And they use gaffer's tape on this. There we go. Left a little residue on there. That's all right. They're using a internal USB for the keyboard. That's perfectly all right. The fan has got a separate grill. It's just held in place with the plastic. It's not actually screwed down. And I believe this is a 40 millimeter fan, if I'm reading that correctly. Power switch and power LED there. So yeah, it's got a nice heft to it. Like I said, keyboard has got a metal plate to it right here. That must give it the resonance of the Commodore. That must be where it's getting its sound, as the key hits that metal plate. USB 2.0. So if you're adapting it to an older motherboard, you'll need an adapter. But that's all it's got for really front panel connectors. There's no reset, there's no hard drive activity light, not that that's really necessary. There are 4 screws holding this hard drive bay in, and it looks like if you use a full-size hard drive, that'll screw in from the bottom. So let's get to building this. First of all, you want to exhaust that air out. Now there's plenty of vents on this to bring air back in. So having the fan exhaust air out the back is what we want to do. Bottom line, that's really all there is to it. So I just flipped this around, rerouted the cables a little bit, not a big deal. What we'll do next is I'm going to go ahead and take this plate off, this mounting bracket off, and that's just 4 screws on the underside here, right here. And these are number 2 screws. And these screws don't seem to be particularly magnetic, which doesn't, speak well to the quality of the hardware. Go. So the screws to mount the hard drive. So these 4 will, fit a 3.5-inch drive. These 2 line up with a 2.5-inch drive, and you notice that these are beveled holes underneath, so you need something that'll screw into the hard drive and have kind of a beveled head. Your standard pan head or hex head screw is really not going to cut it in this case. It's going to stick up and be kind of wonky and not great. But I'm not going to mount a hard drive today. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to mount a DVD drive. And that just goes in like this. we need a number 1 screw, and that's what these little black screws are for. They're pretty much just laptop screws. These seem a little bit more magnetic than the other ones, but... And these DVD drives, these laptop DVD drives, are cheap enough to pick up. I picked this one up for 16 bucks. It's a DVD rewritable. Manufacture date April 2015, so I guess it's kind of new old stock. I just picked it up from a local computer shop. Now we can just okay, I'll flip this over again. Now what I noticed, there's a lot of flex in this case. Shouldn't be too much of a problem mounting a motherboard, but it's something to be aware of. Now in the back, we want to slide it into this slot. There's no slot on the other side. And you want to get that seated firmly down in that channel. The standoffs are built into the plastic, so you've got these special hex head plastic screws, auger type screws. So we're going to take this and pop that in there. Now it's interesting, these are tiny, tiny. They're number 1 Phillips screws, which is weird because typically motherboards have are number 2. Motherboard screws are number 2, just like most of the screws on a standard desktop computer. We have a mixture of hardware we're dealing with here, so now having the motherboard in there, that kind of firms things up a little bit, but a little weird. But so I'll just go ahead and plug the fan in. Now this is a USB 3.0 header, USB 3.0 ports, so you need an adapter kind of like this to go from USB 2.0 to USB 3.0, and I will need that on this motherboard because it's an older motherboard. You'll have to determine whether that's necessary for your build. Now keep in mind, you're not going to want to have heatsink and fan that's taller than your back plate. There is a little bit of room, but you're going to want room for airflow if you're trying to cool a larger processor. This is this is just a little A10 AMD, so it doesn't need a lot of cooling. So it's got a tiny little heatsink on it. It's not a performance monster, let's say. I ran into the same issue on my case where basically the mini-ITX power supply is going to stick up way too high. So what you need to do is you need to get a little extension cable like this. We'll just plug it in here. There we go. And it's on this, it's really just needed on this motherboard. If you have a motherboard that's, that has it more along the side here or further back, you probably won't need that. But in this case, I definitely need that space. I'm just going to tuck that in here. Now there is no pre-drilled hole for the barrel connector, and you need a 12 volt 10 amp power brick to power these little mini-ITX power supplies. And when on a motherboard like this, you know, your choices are kind of limited. We can go over there, I suppose, but I'm not going to drill a hole today. That's for a future build. So I'm just going to tuck this out of the way for now. But let's go ahead and plug in our 12 volt here. And then of course you're going to plug in this is a USB header connector, so you plug that in like so. And then your front panel connectors will go plug in, of course, to your front panel connector, and you'll run your other cables. But you can see already we've got kind of a spaghetti mess already. It's not terribly well organized. I'm sure there's ideas. They're nice enough to give you these standoffs and zip ties to kind of route the cables and kind of tidy things up. And yeah, I mean, appreciate that for sure. What I would have appreciated more is the mounting hardware for the hard drive for this specific bracket. That did not come with my particular unit. I don't know if it comes with any of the units, so we'll just I'm just going to set this on here. We'll tuck the cables up underneath. You know, just get a rough idea. This is the hardest part of all of it. So there we go. Trying to get that all aligned. Push that back. There we go. Now it's all nice and snug. The fit is pretty good, honestly. It's not any better or worse than my little PC case design. We'll take a closer look at that here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna build something out of this. DVD drive but yeah, definitely like I said, flip that fan around for sure, so that you're blowing out instead of in, because that's the way it was mounted. Get rid of that because the heat will build up in this case significantly. But yeah, that's more or less how it goes together. We'll maybe do a more complete build on it later on, but for now, that's our case. But yeah, all in all, quite a pretty case, pretty innovative. Let's go ahead and wrap this video up. There's absolutely no denying that without the first iteration of this C64 themed mini-ITX computer case, C64x, it would never have sort of inspired me to create my own now. So for those of you who haven't seen it, this is what it looks like. It's about a C64 sized ABS, expanded ABS computer case. Now, a couple of differences. Number one, mine doesn't have a CD-ROM slot. It was always intended to just take a USB, CD-ROM, DVD, whatever. The plate is held in with pressure. The fan is an 80 millimeter fan, but it also allows for a flex ATX power supply to be used. I've got the hole for the Pico ATX power supply option up there. And it was supposed to go on the side. Now keep in mind, this was a prototype. It was always going to be kind of this boxy shape, but this is not a finished product, so it's a little rough around the edges. The keyboard is removable. It's just a standard Red Dragon USB keyboard with a little adapter to adapt it to pin headers. We'll set that aside for now. For access, to get access to the entire case, 2 screws on the side would lift that top plate off, and then you'd be able to have access to the whole inside of the case. Now this has got a similar motherboard mounted in it. The standoffs are actually screw-in nylon standoffs. This middle part here, this kind of empty spot, it's probably really difficult to tell on camera, but if you can see the numbers and the little posts in here. There are nylon screws on the bottom that hold posts in to hold hard drives. So this could hold a 2.5-inch hard drive or a 3.5-inch hard drive. Or SSD, whatever you like. The fan, it took a 1 centimeter, 80 millimeter fan, moved quite a bit of air, and even though this isn't kind of a grill style, it did limit the airflow, but it was pretty quiet, so it didn't sound like a jet engine or anything, didn't make a bunch of strange noises. But I'm real proud of this case. Unfortunately, there weren't a lot of other people interested in it, so that attempt sort of fizzled out. But I've still got this prototype, and I've still got one other prototype that's kind of just an empty carcass, really. In terms of comparing and contrasting beyond the features, I like the versatility of the case I designed much better, although I am a little biased. But there's no denying that case is a work of art. It's so close to what a modern Commodore style PC would look like. It's kind of limited. It's not as versatile as my case, but my goodness, it is just a pretty thing to behold. And they've gone to a lot of effort to make it look and feel and sound just like the standard bread bin Commodore 64. And I'm very glad they brought it back out. Little on the spendy side for a computer case, but thank you very much for watching. I'm Mr. Gigabytes, and this is Gigabytes Technology. Welcome to the end of the video. Did you manage not to jump around like a rabid jackrabbit on Adderall? Good for you. This is your reward. We're giving away this. Yep, that's right. It's the McDonald's chicken nugget from the previous video. All you have to do is make it to the end of the video. Job done. Be a subscriber and leave a comment. And it can be any comment, really. Bonus points for funny or helpful comments, or just explain why you want the chicken nugget. I will pick a winner before the next video, and the winner will be announced at the end of next video, where we will be giving something else away. So go ahead, do the thing, and good luck.